Okay, we are live with the LOB locals. Should be very fun. This is the sort of last call for people who actually want to join these locals, as we are starting very soon. Oh, well, it's 6 now, so signups have closed. Let's shuffle up those seeds, and yeah, let's go into the tournament. So yeah, let's start this thing. Yeah, no one else seems to be joining, so there we go. Let's start it up. And yeah, welcome to the stream. Hello, Hobby. Happy to have you here. This is going to be a really fun stream. We're going to be sort of watching an LOB format tournament. And if you don't know, LOB format is just the format that's basically like the first format ever in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, in the TCG at least. So it's basically just playing with the cards from Legend of Blue Eyes with no limited list whatsoever. And that is pretty wild. It makes things very interesting, very strange. Some decks that you might not expect to be good actually do sort of rise to the top as the best things in this meta, which if you've seen my video on the subject, which was like one of my first videos I ever made, then you'll have a good idea of which decks those are. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun just to watch and see these games go on. So I think some people just dived into a duel here. Let's see. I saw Dump Truck, and I think Dump Truck is indeed in this tournament here. So we can watch them play. I do want to, okay, we got Dump Truck versus Seoul, so that's a good starting match. Both these players are very active in Discord. They both tested out this format quite a bit. And yeah, so let's dive into it. I do want to watch one match in particular here. I want to watch Clody versus Sprint Glide, as I do think Clody's deck is very interesting and very unique. So, you know, after this game one, I think we might dive into that one. But we're seeing just both players setting, passing. I mean, pretty standard thing. Yep, Exodia is what is going to happen here, Hobby. Yeah. So Exodia somehow is the best deck in the format. It's crazy. You might not expect it. You know, there's no way to search out the pieces, but there's also no way to disrupt the pieces. And as you see here, the pieces can just be used as chump blockers if you draw multiple of them. And in this format, that kind of is enough. There's so much removal that your opponent will never actually really have much of a board presence. And so, you know, you don't really need to actually set real monsters, because whatever real monsters you set, your opponent's going to clear with removal. And your opponent's not really going to have more than one monster unless they reborn back some stuff. So it's a very powerful deck, and if you play 3 copies of each piece, then you actually are much more likely to draw into Exodia than you would be otherwise, and it's actually not that hard to draw it. Like, I think we ran the numbers on this, and you're likely to get it in like the first like half of your deck. So looks like Dump Truck's going to fire a Swords of Revealing Light here. Swords of Revealing Light is also an insanely strong card in this format. There's no D-Spell yet. That came and started at Yugi, I believe. And so that means there's no real way to clear swords besides like Arm Ninja. And that is, I mean, that's a problem. That's really bad. Pot of Greed also at 3 copies, so you can draw deep into your deck. And it is just insane. I mean, just crazy, crazy stuff here. So it looks like we've got probably an Exodia mirror match. That's what I'm guessing. Yeah, because this is what Exodia decks do. They just basically draw until, you know, the first person gets to get the pieces. So, I mean, not the most exciting gameplay, but it is very funny. And that's why I wanted to host this event. I think it's, like, really fun to play because it's just a game of, like, chicken. Like, you're just staring at your opponent, and you're like, when are they going to get the pieces? When am I going to get the pieces? But there's no real way to actually change the outcome of who draws the pieces first. So it's kind of funny. Dump Truck's going to fire a Fisher on that Giant Soldier, then just set one from hand, pass back to Soul here. And yeah, that's pretty standard. This is, I mean, this is Yu-Gi-Oh, folks. This is the first format of the game. Didn't the game start off on a great note here? I do think it's kind of interesting because one of the series that sort of inspired me to start my YouTube channel is Simo's History of Yu-Gi-Oh series, and they start out in the first episode just sort of playing this format. They don't call it LOB format, I don't think, but they test out this format a bit. Simo plays like an aggro deck, and MBT actually does play an Exodia deck, but it's only playing one of each piece. And so it doesn't actually get to pull off its combo, although I think MBT does get close one game. You might actually win one game with Exodia, but I forget exactly. It's been a while since I've seen it. But then in testing the format for myself, because I was just, playing around with things, and I was like, what if you play 3 of each piece? I mean, I don't think it will actually be good, but it's something you can do, and maybe it would change the math a little bit. So, like, I tested it out, and I quickly realized, oh, wait, this is actually a major problem. This format is definitely not the sort of, like, playground aggro back and forth games that you'd expect if you just sort of, took a cursory glance at it. It actually is just a bunch of Exodia Tier 0 games. And yeah, we're seeing that here with these games here. There is some skill involved in piloting Exodia. It's not just like, head empty, do whatever. You do have to have like some knowledge of like, when to fire swords, when to fire certain removal, but it is still pretty easy to play, and it is Tier 0 in my opinion. Hello, Horror Planet. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you here. This is a very exciting game, and we see a Dark Hole come down here. I think that is the wise play, because once Man Your Bug's flipped, it's not really that useful, so you might as well pop it along with whatever your opponent's monster is, and that's what Dump Truck did. So I think that makes a lot of sense here. And Pot agreed from Seoul. They're going to draw into 2 more here. And let's see what happens. Someone's got to get Exodia soon. Once someone gets Exodia, I think I'm going to switch over to the game with Clody and Sprint Glide, because that game should likely be more interesting. We do see a Dark Hole from Seoul here. But I assume there's going to be followed up with like a set monster. Probably a set back row as well, because they've got 8 cards in hand, so they'd have to discard at the end of the turn. And also, there's no real good ways of spell and trap removal in this format. Armed Ninja does exist, which is mainly used for like Swords of Revealing Light. But besides that, there's no like MST, no Heavy Storm, no Harpies. So there's not even a Trap Master. I'm pretty sure Trap Master came out in the starter decks. So you don't have those, and it looks like Soul's just going to set one, set another, pass back to Dump Truck. It looks like neither player is getting super lucky with their Exodia pieces here, but that will happen. And you do kind of have to, I mean, it's an Exodia mirror match, so it's unlikely that a player will like OTK you, but in general with these matches, you do have to keep in mind, like, okay, what's the... well, okay, so it looks like Dump Truck did draw the piece of Exodia. So, I mean, that's the end of the game. Yay, game 1. Gameplay, right? Okay, let's get into a match that actually has probably a bit more gameplay here. And that will be Clody versus Sprint Glide. So, Clody's DB name is Gabiba Blondie. There we go. Exgon Caliber something. So, it looks like we're still in game 1 here, and... yeah, it's very interesting. Oh, well, Excalibur, or X-Gun Calibria is on Exodia, it looks like, because that piece is there. And Clody, it's unclear. It seems like they are on a bit of an aggro deck. I mean, I know what they're playing, so I can tell you they are indeed on a deck that wants to get aggressive and win that way. But it is a bit spicy. So I hope that we get to see the spice. Swords Within Light. Oh, but on the Armed Ninja! Whoa! That is that's one of the reasons why Armed Ninja is like one of my favorite cards in this format. There are some very skillful plays you can do with it, just setting it to pop, just like having the big brain read that your opponent has a Swords of the Light and is about to use it, and just setting the Armed Ninja to pop that immediately. It's so cool when that happens. And we did get to see it there. So, and that makes sense. Gabiba Blondie has been playing a lot of games in this format. People have been sort of testing it out ever since I announced that the next locals would be an LOB format. So people have been trying it out for themselves, seeing if my video, was accurate about the Exodia decks and stuff like that. And Gabiba Blondie actually did come up with a new deck idea that I hadn't actually featured in the video. So they are very skilled at this deck. They're probably the best of the players for this deck. It looks like they're going to go for a Raigeki, so they might be going for a pretty big play here. We see a head and a giant soldier lost. Or they might just... Oh, okay. 750. They're just poking in with this. Very interesting play on their part. These both do dodge Trap Hole, which is like the only removal in the format. Hello, Allison Gomez. Happy to have you here. What's up is we've got a really fun Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament here. Playing LOB format, the very first format of the game. So it's exciting to see how this format looks. And it's very interesting. It's very different from Yu-Gi Kaiba, which a lot of people might expect that's very similar to these sort of grindy Yu-Gi Kaiba games that you've probably seen on my channel. But it actually is extremely different. The the lack of a limited list, and yeah, LOB format is very nice. Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, so the lack of a limited list, it means that there's just pots, Raigekis, Jarkles everywhere. The lack of super high power monsters means that, damage is a bit harder to come by, with Skullbird Redbird being the best normal summonable monster. But yeah, I love Yugi Kaiba too. Yugi Kaiba is such a good format. I really want more people to actually try it out, because I feel like people look at Yugi Kaiba and they're like, oh, that's just caveman Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it's uninteresting. But I feel like there's actually a lot of depth to Yugi Kaiba, and it takes like a very different skill set than a lot of other formats. A very different skill set from LOB format for sure, because LOB format, there's a bit less skill involved. I mean, there is still definitely a skill. Like we saw Clody here setting an Armed Ninja into a Swords of Revealing Light, and that is just such a cool play. But, there isn't too much of that. Like, most of the skill expression is just which player can draw Exodia first, because Exodia is a tier 0 deck at this format. This format is pretty, it's beastly. But it is fun. I agree. It's like, it's definitely a balance. Like, I don't think that this format would see the sort of high competitive play that something like Yugi Kaiba would, where, people do like a ton of games in that format all the time, because it's just a blast to play. LOB format is more like something to dip your toes into, and just experience, because I do think it's something that everyone should experience at least once. Adrian Brunner, Yugi Kaiba is my favorite format, to be honest. Yeah, honestly, I don't blame you. It's definitely one of mine. I'm not sure if it's like my very favorite, because I do like different formats for different reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I like Yugi Kaiba so much, is because it's just completely unique from everything else, I think. But it's definitely up there. Is it my favorite format that I've covered on the channel so far? It might be. It might also be my favorite format covered on the channel. There are some formats that do give it some competition, but that might just be because like we were the first people to really explore them. For instance, like Treasure format and Fiber format are like two of my favorites, but those were partially because no one had really tested them out before we got our hands on them. And we just found a lot of depth there, and so it was really cool to see. Oh, that Reborn's going to go hard here, because Chloe did have to discard this Curse of Dragon at the end of their turn to avoid clogging up their back row, and that really came back to bite them. Alison Gomez, I agree. Like, the best part about this format is definitely, like, I feel like people look down on Exodia and other formats because they're just like, Exodia, that deck is trash. It's just a gimmick, like an anime gimmick. And it's like, it can see some success occasionally, but it's not actually that good. This format, it's like, no, Exodia is actually really good, and it's what people should be playing. Yugi was objectively correct for playing Exodia in that first game against Kaiba, because it just is the best thing you can be doing. So it is really cool to see, and if you've ever wanted to just pull off the Exodia combo for yourself, I think that this format is a great one to try out. Looks like Clody is going to be able to bring back this Curse of Dragon here. Oh, and there's the poly. Oh, and polying with the Curse of Dragon on field. Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. And that implies that Clody didn't have more than one Curse of Dragon in hand, which is very interesting. Oh, wait, no, they did. They just set up the double fusion combo here. And if Clody does have a Monster Reborn here, they actually... Oh, no, wait, they don't win the game. Oh, no, they do, because they bring back Gaia. Yep, and that is the Monster Reborn. They bring back Gaia, and that is 7,500 points of damage. So really cool to see. And this is what I meant when I said that they've got a deck that I didn't actually come up with in my original video, because they came up with a Gaia the Dragon Champion deck, which is super cool. There are plenty of ways to sort of combat Exodia. And this is like one of the most exciting because it doesn't play into things like Trap Hole. It OTKs in one turn, which, there's no Waboku in this format, so there's no real counterplay to an OTK. And yeah, this deck is just sick. So we saw there, they saved the poly combos for when they could actually kill X-Gun Calibria, and it actually really paid off for them. And that's what you can do if the Exodia deck is bricking, or you won't draw into your combos first. Then, you can do pretty well in that. So exciting to see there. Let's see, anyone finish their game? It doesn't look like anyone else has finished their games here. But still very exciting to see. And yeah, so History of YGO1 is facing the winner of this match here. I think we're going to keep it on this one because we're going to be seeing a bunch of Exodia mirror matches throughout this tournament. We saw one in the first game I showed off on the stream. And, you know, they're fun to talk about, but to watch, it's a bit less interesting. I do think to play, it's a little bit more interesting. Yeah, Adrian Brunner, I actually think I might, because it just is so cool. And it's cool to have, like, an update to a past format that we've discovered in the locals. So I actually do think that I am going to sort of just feature this briefly in a video, show off some gameplay with it. And, yeah, I think it will be a nice sort of update. The first priority for me, though, this week is to get the Yada guide out, as we are planning on having a Yada format tournament this upcoming Saturday. And we also have a locals for Yada on Friday. So the Yada guide will be my top priority. That takes like a lot of work to actually get done because, you know, they're massive videos. They require a fair amount of editing usually, and, you know, just trawling through the card pool to get all possible different strategies you can make with them is pretty exhaustive. But I just want to get that out at the start of the week, and then I'll sort of dive back in to the results from this locals with the Gaia Dragon deck and things like that. So don't worry, it will be coming, although no promise on how soon it will be coming. But yeah, I think we've got a pretty exciting time for the channel. Just, you know, featuring more of these unlimited formats in the locals, which I am planning on doing in the future as well. And also just, you know, diving into a completely new format with Yada. Yeah, PJ Darkness, LOB format, let's go. Hobby says, I'm creating my own Critter Treasure type format, and your videos, Discord discussions have been big help for my ban list / card pool. That's awesome, Hobby. I hope that it goes well. I mean, those formats are generally, like, pretty tough to do because they require a fair amount of testing to actually, like, balance fully. But I'm sure, like, once you actually do create it, if you just, like, message out in the Discord, like, people will be happy to help. Just test it out and see how it goes. So I'm rooting for you. That sounds pretty cool. Adrian Brunner says, oh nice, Yada format will be interesting and definitely skillful to play. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Yada format. I think I've heard a lot about it, and I've heard a lot of good things about it too. So like, I'm really looking forward to what it introduces to the game, because I've definitely also heard that it's very skillful. We've got a normal summoned head of Exodia here, hitting in to the Maneater bug. You don't see that every day, but exciting to see that here. Very fun. Sorry I haven't been like doing the like play-by-play commentary on these games here, but I mean, these games are much more straightforward than some of the others that you'll see in future formats, because I mean, especially given most of the gameplay just comes down to setting, passing, waiting for Exodia, things like that. Arm Ninja will hit a trap hole, which unfortunately, you know, Clody definitely did not want to see that. They wanted to see an actual power spell to hit, but yeah. Yeah, Yada format hopefully will be another bang, Allison Gomez. Hobby says, yeah, I can only go so far with theory crafting, but I really want to give that Duel's Kingdom feeling. And yeah, I support that. I mean, that is one of the unfortunate things about the early like TCG formats. I feel like they're like very nostalgic for a lot of people. But oftentimes people come to them expecting like, you know, oh, it's going to be just like the anime. And I feel like overall it generally doesn't live up to that. I mean, Yugi Kaiba definitely has some of that, because you're like playing like Legends and Battle Oxes and hitting them into each other. And so I feel like that gets pretty anime-esque. But yeah, it is kind of unfortunate, like, that basically once Critter rolls around, it becomes a very different game. A very fun game. Like, I enjoy Critter format and everything that comes after it a lot. But there's less of that, like, anime action there. Interesting. Gabriel Belandi is actually targeting a Fisher, or whatever the other back row is, as opposed to a Swords. That's very neat. So that implies that they don't have ready access to their OTK combo yet. And they're just willing to let the Swords sort of wind down. Very risky strategy against an Exodia deck, but I respect it. And it means that they must really have like no piece of the combo in hand. But yeah. PJ Arts of Darkness says, sometimes you gotta headbutt with Exodia. Yeah, I mean, we love to see it when it happens. It's always very funny. Allison Gomez says, 2002 era is the best IMO. And honestly, having played a fair bit of 2002 era, I really love it. It is like it's just so cool. There's a lot of very interesting interactions and formats at that time in the game's history, and you can really see the game sort of like evolve and sort of course correct over those first initial formats there. So very cool to see. And I really love that time, and I really want more people to actually like try and play these formats, as I think that there's a lot for a lot of people to love. Adrian Brunner says, lol, another Arm Ninja. Yeah, Arm Ninja is really powerful against Exodia. You kind of need to play it to pop these Swords of Revealing Light. These Swords of Revealing Light are really problematic if you don't have those Arm Ninjas. So yeah. PJ Arts of Darkness says, it's hard when some of our favorite cards get eclipsed by meta picks. I agree 100%. It's always, the balance of, like, you want to play the cards you like, but you also want your deck to be competitive enough to actually compete. And that's always very hard. Adrian Brenner says, 2002 has nice formats different to later years. I agree 100%. And because it's so different from later years, I really do think that's a reason for people to, try out these formats. I think that, like, even if you don't necessarily enjoy them as much, you at least get to experience a different style of gameplay. So that way, if you're ever in the mood to play that sort of thing, you know what to play. And also, I do think that, there's Exodia. So it looks like Clody sided in to Exodia in Game 2. That is awesome to see. Wow, what an unexpected game. That explains why they popped the Fisher instead of the swords. But awesome to see that. Very, very cool game there. And yeah, so I mean, that's awesome. I think we're going to follow Clody as they go on because their deck is very unique. And we did kind of show off the Exodia mirror in the game 1. So let's just see more of them. Hobby says, Critter is my favorite DM format for sure. I want to try participating finally in duels. I've always spectated and tried to keep up with the vids. Join in. It's a very welcoming community, like even for like new players and stuff. If you're self-conscious about, your plays, like everyone's happy to help and no one really judges based on that. So definitely hop in. I'm not sure when we're going to hold our next Critter locals, but we should be doing it at some point. But yeah, that was awesome to see. So time to record this result here. And yeah, Clody is moving on to the match with Blah here. So awesome to see. Let's see if anyone else, looks like no one else has finished their games, which, would make sense if they're all a bunch of Exodia mirror matches. But let's see, which other games might be interesting here. I think Ghost of 41st Past and Sinkaruk might be an interesting matchup. So let's see if we can get that on camera here. And yep, very interesting matchup as we can see already. We see a Follow Wind, a couple Hanes, and some other cards here. But yeah, Smokescreen is really amazing. And it's not something that you can do in every format, which is quite unfortunate, as like it is really cool. You just keep your opponent guessing. I also love using it in Yugi Kaiba as well. And there are a lot of decks that can do it effectively in Yugi Kaiba, given that like your core of cards is like so large, right? Like decks often differ based on like a very small amount. So you can definitely sort of side into whatever you're feeling in the next game here. Really cool to see that. Thank you, Hobby. Yeah, 77 subscribers. There's 777, not 77. But yeah, it's really cool to see. We did 666. Now we're on 777. Hopefully we'll get to 888 in no time. But yeah, I've been really happy with the growth of the channel over the past week. It's been really cool to see. So yeah, and thank you all for supporting me to get to this point. It's been a blast, and the more the community grows, the more exciting events we can do and things like that. But oh wow, normal summoned Miniature Bug for a game here, going in for 450, and it looks like Sinkaruk was on a bit of a poly deck. Unclear what they were polying into, but there are a lot of good options we saw with Clody's game there. So yeah, 7 completed equip aggro deck. That would be an interesting idea. I might actually do that. Thank you for that idea, PJ. That would be pretty fun to see. But yeah, I guess this game wrapped up as well. So Rain Dance is moving on. Unfortunately, we didn't really get to see more of those games there, as they did seem really exciting. But sometimes that happens in these games here. There was a triple pot turn 1. Oh, that would have been really funny to see. But yeah. The poly was a misplay. Oh, sorry, Sinkaruk. Yeah, I mean, I hope you still had fun in the games. Oh, rip. Yeah, that always is unfortunate. I mean, at least you got to bluff there, but yeah, that stinks. I hope you still had a great time in this format because I do think that like the games, like I mean, that the end of that game seemed like pretty cool. So I hope that y'all both got to sort of show off what your decks could do. So yeah, but I think now that game has been wrapped up, we could actually. We've got a couple options. So, Rain Dance and Burn King are likely playing now, so we could see them. Danny Droid lost to Food, so time to put that in there. Kind of unfortunate. I did want to feature Danny on the channel as well, because they were playing an interesting like Fusion Flower Wolf deck, but unfortunately it didn't work out that way, I guess. So let's see here. Let's see what games are actually going on that we can see. Looks like Dump Truck versus Seoul is still going on. We can hop into that just real quick. It looks like Seoul just won with Exodia there. It's very cool to see. And let's see. And Dump Truck had 4 pieces. Oh no, wait. Dump Truck had all pieces? Who won that game? Oh, Dump Truck won. Okay. Seoul only had 4 pieces. But wow, very intense there. So it looks like Dump Truck won as well. So we've just got a lot of games finishing up very quick here. But that is how it happens sometimes. So Dump Truck will be moving on there. But yeah, Singrick or Ghost of First Pass, if you want to send in the replay, or Danny Droid and Food, if you want to send in the replay because you think it's like exciting enough to show off, definitely do that, and I can show it on stream because there are some very exciting matches that can happen in this format, but I feel like a lot of it will get drowned out by the Exodia mirrors, which is very unfortunate. But it is what it is. It's a feature of the format. So yeah, it looks like we've got a game here between History of YGO1 and Gabiba Blondie. And it looks like History of YGO1's off to a pretty aggressive start here, although they're down to 3850. So, it's pretty neck and neck. Both players down a fair bit. Yeah, exciting to see that. Nope, Raigeki on the board. Yep, makes sense. That would come there. And this is actually very worrying if I'm History of YGO1, especially seeing the last game there, because that Clody is on an OTK deck, and you're very low in life points, so it's like, I'd be sweating here. Fisher on the Skull Redbird's pretty good. Let's see what they do now. They're going to bring out a Trial of Nightmare, going all in on the beaters down to the 1300s. That makes sense, because going all in on beaters is a way to sort of combat the Exodia meta in this format. So Trial's going to hit in there, and it is a bit worrying here for History of YGO1, though. Let's see what they do, but if I'm Gabiba Blondie, I'm feeling pretty good about this. There are probably a variety of ways that I could actually win this. But yeah, and PJ mentions, for those of you who are on the Discord as well, this is Clody versus Blah. It's just they've got different DB names here. So Gabiba Blondie is Clody, and History of YGO1 is Blah. Both players are very active on the Discord. So Blah is going to go for a stop defense on the Armed Ninja there. That's unfortunate because I think Clody will have to target their own back row. Because it happens in a new chain. Yeah. So they will indeed lose that back row there. So kind of unfortunate. Red Eye Solaris sucks that you lost the Exodia race. I mean, that happens in this format. It is kind of like, it's what happens, right? There's a lot of RNG in this format. A lot of just sort of like having to get lucky and draw into your pieces before your opponent. And I mean, that's always the fear in a mirror match. Is this the end of the game? That is indeed the end of the game. Okay, so History of YGO1 won that one. That was game 1, I think, unless that went really quick. I think that was game 1. They need to go into a rematch. Hopefully this has siding. Yep, it looks like it does have siding. And yeah, Uno reverse OTK indeed. Yeah, and that can happen to OTK decks. You know, there is sort of like a theoretical triangle in this format that people have sort of proposed through testing, where you've got Exodia, which beats these sort of standard aggro decks that play like a bunch of just Skull Redbirds, you know, your ABs, Celtic Guardians, Witty Phantoms, just the very low attack beaters that are normal summonable, so you can just keep bringing them out every turn, hitting in. Exodia beats that because it has trap holes. It has other ways to counter that. And they just don't quite do enough damage to kill them fast enough. But Exodia loses to the big like Gaia Dragon OTK decks because that can just get out one turn and just kill your opponent out of nowhere. Yeah, Red Eye Solaris, you missed this because you were playing a game. There actually was a Dragon Champion summon that we caught on camera here. So we actually did get to see the OTK. So it was very exciting. I prioritized watching Clody's game because I knew that they were playing this deck and I wanted to show it off. But anyways, the Dragon Champion deck can win a lot of games against Exodia. If Exodia doesn't draw well and you draw into your OTK first, you just get damage on board so quickly that you can win the game from that. But the Dragon Champion OTK decks often lose to more standard aggressive decks because the standard aggressive decks can just keep hitting in while you're bricked on things that you can't actually use to chump block, right? Like with the Exodia pieces, if you brick on them, you can set them on field, chump block, and attack, and be fine that way. If you draw Curse of Dragon or Gaia, you can't chump block that. So you're just kind of out of luck. You just got to take the damage. So, there is that kind of triangle here. It looks like History of Waja 1 might be on a more typical standard aggro deck, and that is more favored to win against a Fusion OTK deck, so that's something to keep in mind here. But yeah, it's really PogChamp seeing Gaia the Dragon Champion. It's just so cool, and you're never going to see that in any other format. I mean, maybe Yugi Kaiba, although people there prefer Metal Dragon because the pieces are more accessible for Metal Dragon. I think that, honestly, in Yugi Kaiba, both Fusion decks are kind of, like, iffy. I know that in my video on Fusion, and Yugi Kaiba actually did win a game with the Fusion deck, but I do think it's, like, less good than a more standard build. But yeah. Oh, that's so cool. You got the secret foil, like, in LOB proper. Oh, that's so awesome. I remember I was watching another Yugi tuber who said that they also got the secret foil, like, as a kid. And that was, like, one of their, like, most treasured memories and, like, most iconic memories from the game. So, yeah. Red Eye Solaris said, Gaia Dragon could still have potential in SDYK. It definitely could. The issue with it in SDYK, which is the next format after this, where you introduce the starter decks and no limited list, the issue with it there is that stall decks can just use, like, Ultimate Offering to block you from actually being able to make an aggressive push. And also Waboku exists as well. So there are more ways to stop the OTK, and once the fusion monsters are committed to board, your opponent can just clear them with things like Raigeki or Dark Hole very easily. So I don't necessarily think Gaia Dragon is as good in SCYK, but I'm sure that people will experiment it when we have the locals for that. So that'll be pretty fun as well. The SDYK locals will be a bit of a slog, I'm predicting. I mean, maybe it won't be. Maybe games will go pretty quick. But there will probably be a lot of mill decks in that. Jeremy Swift says, timeout, 10 watching, but only 6 likes. That means 4 people can still click buttons. Do it. If you're not one of the people who've clicked that like button, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already. It really does help out the stream's visibility, and it gets more people involved in the community and makes these events a bit bigger, and it makes the community a bit bigger as well. So, yeah, get involved and smash that like button. So thank you for the reminder, Jeremy Swift. Yeah, let's see if we can get it to 10 likes. Okay, we've got a pretty back and forth aggressive game here. Skull Redbird hitting over Celtic Guardian, Witty Phantom coming out, but that dying to a trap hole. Makes sense. And it looks like Gabi Wulandi is going to draw for turn. I mean, I'm curious how they sided here. Did they side into Exodia to potentially beat the more aggressive deck that History of Waja 1 has here? Or did they just sort of keep it on the Gaia Dragon OTK, just figuring that that will likely be able to win here? Dark Hole 4-Arm Ninja there. So it looks like Gabi Wulandi was potentially predicting a Swords, or they just wanted to set a chump blocker and bait out removal like a Dark Hole. So I think that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not counting out Worm Aggro and STYK Red Eyes Solari. That is definitely a very good deck in STYK, as we tested and found out. But I do think that that deck also can sort of outclass the Fusion OTK deck, because worst case scenario, you set a Wicked Worm Beast from hand with Ultimate Offering to stop the OTK, and yeah, so it's not necessarily the best. Looks like Gabiba Blondie has the upper hand here with the Skull Redbird, hitting over a Giant Soldier of Stone for 250, and yeah. Adrian Brenner, Wicked Worm Beast equals best worm monster. I agree. I love the Wicked Worm Beast. It's just, I have so much fun with that card. It's honestly one of my favorite cards in Yugi Kaiba as well. You can see a lot of videos where I just grind this worm control deck. And it's just a blast to play. It's just such a unique card design for the time, and it's really fun. LoudRusso91 says, one Arm Ninja gets used. It looks like 2 Arm Ninjas have been used up this game already. But yeah, Arm Ninja is a very powerful card in this format. And this Arm Ninja was actually one of my favorite cards from this format, because it just is really cool. It requires a bit of counterplay or experience to use it well. Because you got to know when to set it, know when to, hit his swords, things like that. But if you use it well, you can snipe an opponent's swords and just make a major tempo swing with that. So, I mean, I really enjoy the card, and I'm glad that people have sort of seen the light for Armed Ninja here in this format. Unfortunately, it does get immediately overshadowed once the starter decks come out and D-Spell is released, because D-Spell is just kind of better in every way. But Arm Ninja, for this brief period of time, is the best sort of spell and trap removal card in the game. So, very cool to see that. Gabiba Blondie committing 2 sets to the board. That is very interesting. Kind of playing into the Dark Holes or Raigekis, but they might want to bait it out. Oh, it looks like History YGO1 is going to discard a Blue Eyes White Dragon at the end of the turn. I mean, that's a deck you can play as well. Just trying to OTK with Reborning some Blue Eyes. I mean, that can happen. So it looks like they're doing that. The flaw, of course, is that you can't really use up your cards if you're going for the strategy, because you have to have 7 cards in hand to actually discard. So kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I like the card too a lot. Loud Russo. It's very cool. Oh, it looks like we've got some beatdown going on here. Just getting in for a ton of damage. Saying just, you don't have Raigeki or Dark Hole. I can just get in, commit more to board, and hit in. I mean, also Gabiba Blondie's got 7 cards in hand, so they'd have to discard at the end of the turn anyways here. But yeah, they're getting in for a ton of damage, which is really cool to see. If they'd done this a little bit earlier, they might have actually been able to get History YGO1 down even further. As is, the Blue Eyes in Graveyard as sort of like a Chekhov's gun is very worrying. Looks like History YGO1 is just going to bring out a Celtic Guardian. I assume a Raigeki is on its way here. Oh, or not. Or they're just going to pick off one monster here. They're going to go for the Head of Exodia, which makes sense, the most damage there. Adrian Brenner says, if only Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was released earlier, it would be so cool to see in early Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I agree. Over on the OCG side of things, it was actually released earlier, so they got to play with it a lot earlier than we did. It showed up in a lot more things, but for us, it was just way too late, as PJ does say there. It looks like Gabiba Blondie is just going to bring out another Head of Exodia, hit in to the Celtic Guardian with the Skull Redbird, and get in 1,000 points of damage. So History YGO1 is running pretty low on life points here, but they're definitely not out of the running yet. With the Blue Eyes in Graveyard, they could potentially, get multiple Reborns and just go in for a ton of damage coming up. As Gabiba Blondie only has 6,300 life points left, Blue Eyes is about half of that. So, yeah, interesting. So it looks like there's some life point stuff there. I'm curious why they lost 550, then gained. Well, yeah, they lost 150 total, so that worked. Yep, and you do just fire the swords here. You've got the aggressive position, and swords just sort of locks the game down. So yeah, a Raigeki finally comes down. Looks like History YGO1 finally draws one. They're going to set one pass back to Clody here, but this might just be the end of the game if Clody does have a way to clear the set, and they also have, yep, that's a way to clear the set, and I assume that this is going to be lethal. We're probably going to see a Monster Reborn come down here. as well as just a monster. Or they're just, they got the read that Arm Ninja is there. Oh, well, we got arm beats. So, the left arm, the forbidden one, is hitting in for 200, which might actually matter. So, kind of funny to see there. Adrian Brunner says, yeah, it's so sad. We got some cool vanilla cards way too late, like the OCG exclusive vanillas. 100% agree. No reason not to have them over in this form of the card game. Just kind of unfortunate that we got them so late. But, yeah. PJ says, having 3 Monster Reborn makes for some crazy pushes. 100%. That is one of the scariest things in this format. You just have to sort of play around 3 Monster Reborn because there's no real way around it. It looks like Clody's going to set 2. And, I mean, let's see. Oh, well, that's Exodia there. Yep. so there's the pieces of Exodia. And, that's how Exodia can win. I mean, I do think that Clody had a very good chance of actually winning through damage there. But yeah, they were just able to win. Arm beats equals Valen archetype confirmed. Yeah, we never officially got the armor cards in the TCG or the OCG, I think, for that matter. But we can sort of relive those memories with the arms of Exodia, the legs of Exodia, and you even got the head of Exodia for the helmet. We can relive that epic game between Joey and Valen. That was honestly like one of my favorite duels from that season. It was just so cool. Like, I mean, who needs actually using cards when you can just punch your opponent's monsters? Like, it was just really funny to see there. But yeah, we got the Valen cosplays going on here. But yeah, looks like they're just, chatting about the game there. But looks like history of YGO1 potentially had game, but the Swords was up, which is, it shows why the Swords is such a good card in this format, because it can really stop big pushes like that. So we've got, I don't know. It's curious to think what Gabiba Blondie is sided into. Are they on the OTK deck or are they on Exodia again? That's the question. Exodia aggro could potentially be the main deck strategy, IMO. Yeah, I think that it could be. Aggro gives you another potential win con. The only thing is it does play into things like Trap Hole, but, Adrian Brunner says, in general, Season 4 was actually a great season. I agree. I think the Waking the Dragons is very, very underrated. I think that people overlook it because, it's a filler season technically, but so much good stuff happens. I mean, you got Raphael beating Yugi and, Yugi sacrificing his life for, Yami Yugi. It's just, there's so many great moments. Yo, that says, this layout, though. Yeah, credit goes to PJ Darkness, who is in the YouTube chat currently, for designing this layout. Really awesome job. Really sick. So thank you so much for designing it there. But yeah, Red Eyed Solar says, you either win through damage or Exodia. Yep. Deal with it says, not if you play my deck full of 900 attack or less guys. Yeah, that does dodge around Trap Hole, so there you go. Exodia aggro with the 900 attack, Molten Zombies, or not Molten Zombie, it's like Dissolve Rock, that's what I'm thinking of, which fuses into Flame Ghost. Molten Zombie is a later card that comes in, I think, Invasion of Chaos, actually, where you revive it from the graveyard and then you draw a card. I think that's how it works, yeah. But yeah, we'll get to that eventually, but oh, sorry, Diablo. Yeah, I am spoiling a 20-year-old series. If anyone here has not seen the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime, I highly encourage you to do so. If you're watching this stream, you probably like old sort of, card games like this. And the old Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime is a classic for a reason. And it has a lot of card games in it, so very cool to see. Looks like Gabiba Blondie just going to bring out a head, hit into that bug, and then hit in directly for Skull Redbird, which I think makes a fair amount of sense. But yeah, so it should be, there's no there's not even Castle Walls. I think Castle Walls also comes out in the starter decks. The only traps in this format are, I'm pretty sure, Trap Hole, Dragon Capture Jar, and Two-Pronged Attack. And Reverse Trap, I think. No, Reverse Trap might also come in the starter decks. I think Reverse Trap also comes in the starter decks, but I could be wrong about that. Either way, like, there's very, very slim pickings for traps. Really, Trap Hole's like the only one really worth playing. Or Dragon Capture Jar if your opponent's on like a dragon deck. Like if they're playing the, Gaia Dragon deck, or if they're playing like a Blue Eyes deck, we did see Blood discard that in the previous game here. So it is a possibility. Diego that says, never really thought about it, but Molten Zombie is literally a card of safe return on a body. And if you're playing card of safe return as well, you get sort of 2 draws, which is pretty crazy. PG Arch of Darkness says, having Heads of Exodia and 900 beaters can hold off an opponent's Fisher. Yep, that's true. Which can come up. There's a lot of like Raigekis and Dark Holes in the format, but people do play Fisher because they do just need the extra removal. So it can come up. Red Eye Solari says, Season 4 is definitely an arc that shouldn't work on paper, but was pretty decent. 100% agreed. And, I have a real soft spot for it. PJ Arch of Darkness says, or make a less valuable Raigeki. True. It may be a 2-for-1, but if the cards aren't that good, is it really a profitable 2-for-1? I do think that in general is sort of like a deck building fallacy that you can have, which I've encountered myself where I'm like, should I put in these bad cards? Or are these bad cards actually less good or less bad than I think they are because they make our opponent's removal worse? And the answer generally is no, they're bad. If your only reason to play them is because you don't care about losing them to removal, then I think you're probably in a tough spot. Looks like Blah might win the game here. Adrian Brunner says, indeed, Red Eyes, I think it's because it was inspired by Season 0 Yami and introducing his dark side. I agree. Makes it pretty cool here. Looks like Raigeki's coming down. Soldiers switch into attack. If Blah can bring out that's 1,500, and then if they can revive a Blue Eyes, that will indeed be the end of the game here. So let's see if it happens. They're asking if I'm ready. I am ready. Just, just do it. Don't drag out the thing, but just do it. I can't respond to you in the dueling book thing. I guess I could private message you in dueling book, but just do it. No need to draw it out. We know what's happening. If you draw it out further, I'm just okay. There we go. Yeah. I was just gonna leave the game if there wasn't anything there, but yep. So there's the reborn for the Blue Eyes. Let's see how many pieces Clody had there. Looks like 4 pieces, and yeah, that won't quite do it. And that can happen in this format. So there you go. So very cool to see Blue Eyes actually getting a win here. So yeah, let's mark that down on the chart here. So Blah will indeed be going forward in the tournament. So cool to see these other decks sort of doing well here. Let's see if Burn King and Ghosts are done. Let's see. I think they did it already, or maybe they're still in it. So let's dive in to Rain Dance and Burn King if we can find them. Okay. Oh, what? Not just Riley and seems like a very interesting game here though. But more of a modern game than what we're playing. But yeah, let's dive into that Rain Dance and Chris R game. We will return to Blah and Dumptruck as well, because it'll be cool to see how the Blue Eyes deck does against just a standard Exodia deck. But yeah, DL low-key creating the new best deck of the format. I agree. DL, you got to put this into practice. We got to see the final form of this deck. But yeah, 4 pieces just hurts. Yeah, as Allison Gomez says, it really is brutal. It's just, you're so close and yet so far, and it always hurts. Especially in formats like this where you can't actually search out the additional pieces. In things like Critter, you can always revive Sangan or Witch, search out another piece, things like that. Here you can't really do that, and it really makes you feel very, very powerless. So very cool to see. Looks like Rain Dance has won the first game of this match here. So very cool to see. This will be interesting because Rain Dance is on a bit of a spicy deck, as we saw in the last game there. Unless, of course, they sided into something like Exodia, which they could do. We saw Gabi Bolani do that in the previous game there. But let's see how this goes. Looks like Rain Dance is going to fire Raigeki here. and that's pretty good. I mean, looks like that's an arm and a stone there. So, will they be... Oh, Celtic Guardian. Chris Hard 666 is thinking. Yep, and it looks like they either are bluffing a trap hole or they actually do have a trap hole. But either way, Radiance is probably going to be a little bit more cautious here depending on what they've got in hand. They need to figure out what other monster come into board. Montgomery Urabi makes sense. It's a very strong monster, but also if your opponent does trap hold, it's not as bad as them trap holding like a Skull Redbird. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Hold up. Can this actually win this turn? So there's a reborn. So we've got 4450 on board here. I don't know. They can't actually win even if they got 2 more reborns. They can't actually win. But Follow Wind on the Skull Redbird. 1850 attack Skull Redbird here. This is getting pretty hype. So that's 3250, 4750. So Raindance has cut down Chris Hart 666 life points by over half. And that's a pretty tough spot for Chris Hart 666 to be in. I mean, they've only used up 1 Raigeki, so they're likely going to clear the board next turn anyways. But it's still like pretty rough. Pretty dangerous. So yeah, I'd be a bit worried if I'm Chris Hart 666. But then again, they might have 4 pieces of Exodia in hand, in which case they're feeling pretty good unless they draw a brick piece of Exodia, in which case they'd be on a pretty bad spot. But let's see what they draw here. Let's see what they do. They've got the Dark Hole. Yep, so that will indeed clear the field. So very, very good trade here on Chris Hart's part. This is basically a 4-for-1 trade, which is very powerful. But card advantage is kind of weird in this format, given how cheap removal is in general, and how much damage does matter. So that was a very good trade for Chris Hart's part. But Rainit is still definitely in it. They've got a stop defense for the set. Very powerful card in this format. It's just a hand of Exodia here. If Raindance does have a monster to beat over that piece, which I assume they do if they're stop defensing, unless they were really worried about a man-eater bug. Yep, there's a giant soldier. Looks like that will probably go through, I assume. Unless the trap hole gets sprung here. I mean, it's not a bad spot, the trap hole. I will say that. Oh, looks like not. They've got a reborn as well here. They can bring out a Skull Redbird here. If those last 2 cards in hand are double Follow Wind, Raindance wins the game. Would be very funny, very unlikely, but I really hope that's the case. Either way, this is extremely good for Raindance here. You're just getting a lot of damage in. Opponent's very, very low. They have to play like insanely carefully, and you know that it's extremely unlikely that they win next turn. Yep, there's a Follow Wind on the Skull Redbird, and yep, this will indeed drop them down 300 more. So yeah, this is going to be very tough for Chris Hart 666 to actually come back from. Although there are cards and combinations of cards that do it, it's just a matter of getting pretty lucky. But yeah, Follow Wind coming in clutch here, it seems. I mean, we saw it in the graveyard for game 1, so I guess we didn't get to see it there. But it pumped in some extra damage here. It's pumped in 600 damage total, so might not matter in the long run, but it's still decent. Fisher on the giant soldier, and yeah. Oh, I should do voice chat. You're right. I'll hop in here. Yeah. That's my bad. I just forgot to jump in. So yeah, we've got voice chat in the Discord if people do want to join in. So yeah, always here to chat. But yeah, that's my bad. Normally we do that for the locals. We just get people, talking once they've, sort of gotten out of the tournament and just, get their impression on things here. Looks like that Urabi is going to eat a trap hole here. Makes a lot of sense as Chris Horror is just dead if that's a monster that, Rainance can get over. And it is indeed. It's an Exodia piece. And Chris Horror's at 2 cards in hand, which is really bad. Hello, who is that? That is Clody. Hello, welcome.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good, but oh man, that was a brutal loss there. Yeah,
well, I'm not gonna lie, it was a bad matchup for me. So kind of, I built to counter Exodia mostly. So expected to see more Exodias. I didn't go against it, so that's how it went. So
Yep. And
But I'm okay with that. I think like the game I won before the first match, round one, was very cool because I had this ending with the double polymerization, which
oh
like
yeah, that was
I
that was
hope
hype.
was entertaining.
That was so hype. I'm really glad we caught that on stream. It was just really cool here. And welcome Seoul as well. We did catch the tail end of your game, although we couldn't stay for the whole time because featuring a full Exodia mirror match is probably something we're going to save for the finals. Uh, but yeah, what were your thoughts on this tournament so far here?
Yeah, I think I do agree with everybody that Exodia is probably the best deck. I think there's sort of a debate on whether it's tier 0 or not, and I don't know. I just been on the side of like it's definitely the best deck, but I don't know. Like I guess that obviously, like to me, I feel like I don't know. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when I'm playing the deck, it just feels like I'm like almost there, but it's just not enough for me to really consider it like fully tier 0. But it could be just because of what I played, and if I played other decks, I could have a better understanding. But I don't
Yeah,
know. Like
it's
yeah,
definitely an interesting sort of thing in this format where like it just kind of is out of your control. There are like minor things you can do as the Exodia player to like increase your chances of winning, just like minor optimizations. But honestly, like at the end of the day, you don't win the game through skill. You win the game through luck, right? So like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
bingo format.
or at least with the
oh,
yeah, at least with this one.
Oh,
that's
mate,
the
either back in attack position
that's
for
the second
him.
bug for game I think we've caught here. So
Unbelievable,
Nice.
Jeff.
yeah, very cool to see. And Rain Dance will be going on yet again to another match. Very cool to see. So now we got Ghost of 41st
Yeah.
Pass for the Food and Blah versus Dump Truck for our semifinal matches here. Really exciting to see.
Yeah. No, I think as well, this is why I actually like in terms of game two and what I decided to do for the other games, the Exodia Mirror was side into this more aggressive version of
Mm.
Exodia. So that way I would be able to have damage as another option. So it felt
Yeah,
to
the
me, I guess I
double
had a
win
bit more
condition.
that game. Yeah. And I feel like potentially that may be the way to go with Exodia forward. So that way it's like obviously there will still be some luck, but you have more of a chance to actually win, maybe say the mirror, but maybe even against like I don't know, even like the typical like aggro decks, right? Um, if they have to worry about you also like trying to kill them, it's like they
Yeah.
have to like sort of attack them all fronts. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and
I can
it
definitely
makes it
understand some issues though, but yeah.
yeah, and it makes it interesting and siding as well. But so it's interesting because Synchrook says in the YouTube chat, expectation, Exodia tier 0, reality, man-eater bug beat down. And I mean, that what we've seen in a couple of these games here. Um, Bug FTW for sure, Allison Gomez. So yeah, and PJ's bringing up, laser cannon armor. We saw it in the anime. We got to bring it into reality here. It's just too good. Uh, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
never underestimate the power of like like death by 1,000 cuts, right? Just keep hitting in with monsters here, and eventually whittling down your opponent. Looks like History of YJ1 is discarding this Blue Eyes White Dragon, and I'm kind of curious of your all thoughts on the Blue Eyes White Dragon strategy because I
I think
personally
is just bad.
I
It's
agree. Like
horrible.
I think it's worse than the Guy Dragon ODK. But there are some things that you can sort of point to, like where you're like, well, it's less pieces overall than the Guy Dragon OTK. You just need the one Exodia, or not the one Exodia, the one Blue Eyes. And you can also stack your hand up to 7 cards with like multiple positive greeds. So there are like arguments to make there. I just feel personally like if you're having to bide your time to like get up to 7 cards in hand and then discard, you're not putting pressure on your opponent, and that's a major flaw of the deck in my opinion. But we have seen there are
Yeah, I
2 Blue Eyes
agree.
Engraved here, so maybe that'll come up.
I guess like the idea though is like you're gonna play the standard game, and then when you know you have game, and like I think that should be when you're gonna do all the blue eye stuff. So it's like like realistically, right? You only have 3 trapples that you're wanting to really set or activate swords. So a lot of the times you don't really want to actually like. Oh well, if you're setting stuff, it's only for bluff. So I think it's fine, like taking a turn to do that. I don't think it's worth like trying to do it like multiple turns, but I think if you just get the one turn to do it,
well, it's not necessarily like, in my opinion, it's not necessarily like the problem the turn you go for the combo. Like I think that's fine, right? Like if you've got the combo set up, definitely go for it. Like that's not a flaw with the deck. The thing that I don't like about the deck is that you have to basically put in like multiple turns, just not doing anything to get enough cards in hand to discard Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
Which is, I think
Which,
it makes it a flaw. Which, and you know, if you're against Exodia,
is an issue that Gaia deck doesn't have, for example. Because I mean, Gaia deck can do the exactly same play. Of course, you got Gaia instead of Blue Eyes, but in the plus side, you can proactively send to the graveyard these monsters to even summon a fusion monster. So like you get more damage on board, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I think Gaia is more effective in that sense.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, we need to see a bit more probably of these decks in action to really get a good sense of which deck actually, you know, can perform here. But I think that we're really seeing the test of it this game, right? Because History of Wajo 1's first match was against the sort of Gaia Dragon deck, so it's not really a representative match of the deck against Exodia deck, like Dump Trucks. So this is really like the crucible here. This is like the test that will show whether this deck actually does have some legs on it. So it's exciting to sort of capture that on camera and see like, how will this do? You know, will it be able to compete against an actual Exodia deck, or will it falter? Oh!
Oh no!
This is one of the flaws of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you set up.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately not the worst for History of YGO. Like, they probably have ways to deal with this, but.
Yeah, because he plays Fisher at least. But you can see, like, he got a very aggressive setup because he's playing both Fisher and Stop Defense.
Which Stop Defense is very good in these aggro decks.
Yeah, that's why I prefer it over Fisher, for example.
Is this the end of the game? You gotta have like triple reborn here, I think, for it to be the end of the game.
Yeah, he has to triple reborn.
Oh no, but looks like just 4,500. Well, it was exciting while it lasted there.
Damage, though, yeah.
Yeah.
And now Dark Hole.
Yep, there's Dark Hole, yeah. But the damage does matter. No. Especially, I mean, all History of YGO 1 needs is a way to clear the set and just, you know, if they can get Blue Eyes on field or just Stop Defense will do it. 1,300 is a bit less good than like potentially a leg or an arm, but it's still damage.
Yeah, see, in that case, Fisher wouldn't have cleared the Giant Soldier of Stone in this case. That's why Stop Defense is better.
Yeah.
But like against a more aggro strategy, obviously Fisher is very, very valuable because I mean the opponent is more likely to summon an attack monster, so you have plenty of monsters to destroy.
Yeah, it really just depends on what you're expecting to see in the meta, I think. Because if you're expecting to see more Exodia decks, then having the Stop Defenses in there can be very, very good.
Yeah.
But.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. I'm curious. They're just getting in. Oh, they're gonna attack with like the bird or the soldier. It seems.
Well, maybe he's got a second copy of Monster Reborn. No, he doesn't.
No, this is probably a winning play. Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I mean, the gamble, he won it.
Yeah, I mean, you think like, I mean, if you're calculating out the probabilities, right? Like, a lot of the Exodia decks aren't, like, super big on the 2K defenders. They definitely have them because they can be very annoying for the opponent to deal with. But oftentimes, you know, you just draw extra pieces. And you're like, well, I got to set this piece. So, you know, if you check the graveyard and see how many defenders are there, it may be a reasonable risk to just go for it. And even, like, if it was a 2K defender, it wouldn't be necessarily the worst thing in the world because you still get in for, like, 13... or you should probably attack with a Giant Soldier Stone first in that case. So that way you get in for 1,550. But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But yeah.
Yeah, but at least like if the opponent had to attack with blue eyes first, I would have still be alive for one turn, and maybe like he was holding that swords
Yeah.
of revealing light.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
because that's also another thing, like because you tend to keep swords until you feel like in danger zone.
yeah.
But then this deck very aggro, like Blue Eyes or Gaia, they just have a very high threshold. So like you have to preventively activate those swords because otherwise they just OTK you and you don't even get the chance to activate those
Yeah,
swords.
and I think that's one of the like the skill testing things in this format, honestly. Like, I mentioned earlier in the stream how I don't really think this format is that skillful, but there are some elements of skill to it. I think one of them is like recognizing the game state and recognizing what you lose to and whether you actually need to do certain defensive measures against that. And so, knowing when to fire your swords is very good. Like whether to respect the sort of triple reborn idea or other things like that. We might just see a pass from History of YGO1 here to discard the blue eyes, or just a pot. That will help
Well,
stack their
just
hand
bot.
over
So
7. But yeah,
now he's got 8 cards. Yeah.
yep,
Hey,
and there we go.
discarding 2 Blue Eyes probably
Double blue eyes. Oh, or no, they need to discard one
has to
more.
be.
One more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like Dump Truck is reminding them of that.
Yeah, the policeman.
Yeah. Well, they gotta, it's good that they catch this now as opposed to like having to go back. It probably doesn't matter because worst case scenario, History Wide like sets a back row, right? And it's like not that big of a risk, right? I mean, I guess Armed Ninja is a thing, but you care less about it in the Exodia decks than you would otherwise. So
Let's see if it's going to be nice. Yeah. Fair
yeah.
play.
Yeah,
Fair
I mean,
play.
this is local, so this is casual. We're not being like, no, you gotta do whatever. It's fine in general. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, we're a chill community. I don't think anyone playing the LOB format tournament is going to be too, too uptight about
Well,
this
we are
sort of
not.
thing.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's tryharding.
Yeah, because LOB is
I
a
mean, no
format.
need to.
Yeah, if there was sort of a ranked ladder for LOB, it would be so bad because it just come down to luck basically, right? It would
Yeah.
be yeah.
Oh, again.
Yeah. And this is good because like it acts as a wall, but also it prevents Blah from going for a big reborn play if they don't have a removal thing. Fisher will remove it though.
But anyway, that's one
Oh,
of the
is this the
reasons.
end of the game?
No,
I mean, if there's double reborn. Oh no, just the 3K.
no.
Still
See,
pretty
like
rough.
that's one of the reasons why in Exodia I'm not big fan of Monster Reborn because it's alright. I mean, you Monster Reborn, your opponent big monster, you dealt damage, but like your strategy is not the one to deal damage, so it's irrelevant any damage you get. And any monster you get, you can expect next turn to be dead anyway with a mass removal. Ooh,
Yeah, this is a. Oh, and there's the reborn, so that will be the end of the game here. So Blue Eyes
well,
moves on to
yeah,
the next round. So maybe Blue Eyes is a little bit better than we expected. Who knows?
but there's a big flaw because Dump Truck, I know, he underestimated Dragon decks. He doesn't side in Dragon
Dragon
Capture
capture them.
Jar.
Yeah, I mean that's a flaw of
And
the Gaia Dragon deck as well.
yeah, true. But
So
that's why I sided in Exodia because like I just was hoping to bait people into siding in Dragon Capture Jar. So I side out everything and then the opponent has useless cards. So
yeah,
because like I'm not going to OTK anyway because Dragon Capture Jar can be activated in the battle phase. So basically making me all in and then get sucked by the Dragon Capture Jar.
yeah. And so it is a risk that people have to play around, and they've got to decide: are you going to side into Exodia and make the Dragon Capture Jar dead, or are you going to just keep it on that strat?
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, like one Dragon Capture Jar isn't that bad to have in your deck. Like, I know that some people have just taken a side, like, not even siding the Dragon Capture Jar, but like main decking one copy, just in case they run into a Dragon matchup in game one here. So yeah, cool to see.
So some people actually did that,
Yeah.
or no?
We've got some more comments in the YouTube chat, which is pretty good. Oh, Allison Gomez needs to go. Thanks for stopping by, Allison. It was a pleasure having you here, and hopefully you can come by for future streams as well, or to play in the locals as well. PJ Arts of Darkness calls us a coin flip format, lol, and honestly, it kind of is. I mean,
It is, yeah,
yeah,
totally.
there's a lot of luck involved, but that's part of the fun. You know, it's a big gamba format. You know, it's just if you wanna do luck, go for it. Dragon Capture is definitely better than Two Pronged Attack in my opinion. Synchrook. I agree 100%. But yeah, hopefully we'll all keep enjoying Allison. But yeah, pleasure having you here. Adrian Brunner mentioned something further up in the chat. They say, to be fair, Guy achieves the same as Blue Eyes and loses to less cards. And, you know,
Yeah,
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
As a Gaia player myself.
Yeah. Israel Waja one says, Kaiba strong. And yeah, that can happen. Welcome, Burn King. This was your first tournament, I think, here. How do you enjoy it?
Yeah, this is my first online tournament, and yeah, it's cool, but yeah, this is Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yep. Yeah, we caught the tail end of that game, and that was like, oh, that was unfortunate. But that happens, especially in this format with, you know, a lot of luck-based sort of things with Exodia. So, yeah, it can happen, unfortunately. But it is cool, at least if you're going to lose to a deck, you lose to a spicy deck. You know, it's like you lose to the deck playing like follow wins, which is like, you know, I'm never too upset losing to the based techs. So yeah. Oh, it looks like they did snipe an armed ninja there, which is very good to do with the dark hole.
Yeah, if you have a swords active and your opponent is setting a monster, he's always 100% being an armed ninja.
Yeah, very
so you
likely.
Always wanna get rid of it.
Yeah. And it's one of the things, like I mentioned watching your games, because we saw you preemptively set Armed Ninja and then get rewarded for that, which was really cool. It is like one of the few areas of skill expression in like knowing when to set Armed Ninjas.
I saw he drew like 1,000 cards. I said he must have 100% another swords in hand. So like when he clocked out the previous swords, I just set the Arm Ninja. And that's the only way to make use of Arm Ninja properly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you never gonna succeed on activating it.
Yeah. And I mean, I love Arm Ninja for that reason. It's just, it's a silly card, right? It's not even like, it's not close to the most powerful card in this format. But
probably it's one of the most skilled ones, though.
Agreed. Which is why I'm a fan.
No, I'm like surprised that we have in terms of semifinals. I thought it was going to be like all Exodia.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of surprising. Everyone was going into this tournament thinking that Exodia would be tier 1 or tier 0, that is. But yeah,
still is like however it will go, I'm still sure that Exodia is tier 0 though.
Yeah, I think also like I think we had like a good half the field show up with like some spicy deck. You know, not necessarily like Exodia. I'd say probably we had like 4 Exodia players and then 4 non-Exodia players. And 2 of the Exodia players faced each other in round 1. So, you know, you're gonna...
that was true.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it.
So then you got like 3 Exodia players total for like contention for like the final game here. And we've had 2 Exodia players in that finals round. So, or not finals, in the semifinals. So it makes sense if you like crunch the numbers that we get this sort of layout. I'm just glad that we don't have Exodia mirror match for the finals, because that would be a very boring thing. CS said, when will we see a Yada coverage video? I'm planning on having the Yada video out Well, I'm planning on recording it tomorrow, but given how big it will likely be, it will probably get up on YouTube on Tuesday, because YouTube often takes some time to like fully process the videos and stuff. So yeah. PJ Arts of Darkness says, wasn't Trial of Nightmare once called Trial of Hell in first printing? And I'm not sure if they actually printed it as Trial of Hell, but that was its original like OCG name.
I think it was in the first edition was Trial of Hell, but maybe well, let me do a quick research.
Yeah. I mean, that's the advantage of having people in the voice chat here. I got to get the stream up on this because I don't have 2 monitors yet, so that's something to eventually get if I'm continuing streaming. But
all right, I can confirm it. The first edition copy of Trial of Nightmare, well, it was called indeed Trial of Hell.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, it was Trial of Hell, and that was a bit too edgy for the parents out there. So they changed it.
I remember like Simply Unlucky like doing a box opening that had Trial of Hell in it. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of Trial of Nightmare, but I don't have the Hell version. Yeah, CS says after the struggle was after the genocide. Yep, that was the case as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, later set, but still happened. And yeah, it's just interesting to see what actually makes it through the localization process before they're like, maybe we should actually change that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Wait, there's a call.
I was just gonna say I'm very sad that like Hades was like translated from not even translated, they just changed it from Hades, which is like there's literally like a Disney movie called Hercules that has the villain be named Hades.
Maybe that's why they changed it, because they didn't want any like copyright strikes.
I don't know. I feel like Hades is like public domain though.
It should be, but I mean you never know. Never underestimate Disney or their lawyers.
Yeah, but actually it's also the Catholic Church, because they banned all the hallows, all the crosses or religious references.
I mean, that's what we see in Monster Reborn. It's not even a cross; it's an ankh, but that lands on the chopping block there. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's game. Oh. Okay, no. Oh no, wait. Oh no, wait. That's the end of the game though. Exodia in finals. Very interesting to see here. So
a fun fact about Rain Dance deck is basically like yesterday he asked me if I had any spicy deck ideas, and one of the spicy deck ideas was Skull Redbird Beatdown with a Equip spell, and like I sent him the deck list, and like he just no, wait, it was so confusing. Rain Dance admitted defeat.
Wait, what?
Exodia, right? No, I think I think Rain Dance attacked, and the life points was from that. So right? I think so, right? I think that's why.
Oh wait, okay. So food one. Okay, so yeah, I'll edit this.
No, it was so confusing this ending.
Yeah. Food. Okay, so food won that one, right?
No, yeah. Basically, he had Exodia in hand, but didn't call it straight away, and did let doing the turn like this.
Oh, okay.
And like he said, "GG, man."
Okay, so that makes sense.
And then, well, not fun about this behavior, but like.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, as long as they didn't have it in hand for like a couple turns, right? I can see it as like
one turn, right? But
yeah, like I can see it like you don't realize potentially, and then you're looking at your hand at the end, and you're like, oh wait, that actually is 5. So yeah, but I mean, we could just while we're waiting for that final game, let's just I don't know, let's see what's going on here in this game. So we're streaming Invader Weasel versus Barking Seal while we talk about the format, just having this in the background. But we can also talk about the other localized names here, because the YouTube chat has come up with a couple of them. So
we have time.
Yeah. There's time before the final game, but congratulations on making it to finals. Very cool to see. It'll be interesting to see how Exodia does in the final match against how Blue Eyes does in the final match there.
You can reverse it.
Yeah.
Also,
Either
what
one.
do you mean,
It's interesting to see how they
congratulations?
do.
I've been trying to throw.
Oh well, don't try to throw.
Really?
But
No,
Wow.
I've not actually been trying to throw. That's a joke.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it will be cool to see either way. Like, I think that it's been interesting. We discussed sort of like the match sort of breakdown here, or not the match breakdown, the deck breakdown as a whole, because we were kind of surprised at the layout of the semifinals. But because people were expecting like Exodia Tier 0, right? But given the amount of Exodia players who joined the tournament and the amount of people who didn't, it actually does make kind of sense that, the semifinals and thus the finals turned out this way. But it'll be interesting to see. This is kind of like, I feel like this tournament has kind of challenged a lot of people's perceptions of the format, because people were saying like Exodia Tier 0, maybe Exodia Tier 1 now. So interesting to think about.
This entire format's nothing but RNG.
Well,
That's
yeah.
why I'm playing Blue Eyes in the first place.
Yeah, it's all 50-50s.
Yeah, but
it doesn't matter.
Even in an RNG format, it's interesting to discuss whether some decks are more prone to get better RNG than others, or not better RNG, but have more probability of winning than others.
Exodia's advantage is very simple. You have a 0.04 chance of losing, going second. You're playing against Exodia.
Are you talking about like if they draw Exodia first turn?
Yes, and 0.9% chance of losing first turn draw.
The first turn, second turn probabilities don't actually really affect things that much.
It doesn't matter.
Also, as I mentioned, because there was a bit of a tangent in the Discord actually about what the actual probability of drawing Exodia turn 1 is. Those probabilities aren't quite accurate because you do need to factor in the pot of greeds as well. I might actually just, after the stream's over, just sort of like calculate that for fun, because it's not actually like too bad. You just need to go through each case. Like, I mean, there might be a way to like actually sort of model pot of greed as a card, but I think the easiest way to do it is just you model each case. Like, okay, what if you draw 1 pot of greed in your opener, 2 pot of greeds, etc. And then you calculate the odds of drawing Exodia like that. So I might do that.
Drawing pot of greed into pot of greed.
Yeah, you got to consider that case as well. Although that case might be able to be folded into the case of just drawing double pot of greed. But I'll do it out. It'll be a fun combinatorics problem, so that'll be good. But
I know. I was just letting him finish.
Okay, food's here.
Now food is ready.
Okay, let's
while you were talking.
Let's dive in.
See you at the end of the match.
Yeah. Okay, I'm excited to see how this goes.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Oh, what if Drill Warrior was LOB? That would be very funny.
Yeah, no tuners. Let's go.
Yeah. It's just in the extra deck chilling.
Yeah.
So that would be fun. But yeah, I figured, we'd have some just random Yu-Gi-Oh! Up on board. I feel like that was probably Edison format. Pretty popular format.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah.
With all I think it was like, it was like Quick Draw versus Gold. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think E3 Yu-Gi-Oh! Recently did a Glad Beast video. So it makes sense that, people are checking out the deck a bit. And yeah. And, Quick Draw is still pretty popular given. Yeah. But I mean, I guess this is a kind of off topic for people who are here for LOB, but I will be covering Edison at some point in the future, hopefully. So, once I get there.
Man, we must tell Vlad to stop hosting single games.
Oh yeah,
freaking do the matches.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest deal, but it is kind of unfortunate. At least you can still side, so it just makes the end of the game kind of awkward. But
yeah, I think because extra one, right?
Wait, actually,
they are in game, by the way.
Yeah, I'm looking for the game now. Is there an exploit if you host singles? Like, can you look at the replay and see what your opponent's on?
That's what he's doing. No, joking.
Well, no, I don't think that they're doing that. But yeah, that is something that we should probably. I'll specify after these after the locals ends. I'll specify that you have to host matches because that is something that someone could do, just to get a bit of advantage there. But yeah, we'll probably get to Edison sometime in 2026. DL with it says, and yeah, maybe at the pace we're going pretty slow. I do think that there will be some formats that'll be a lot quicker than others because it's just like very similar formats. For instance, I assume there will be a fair amount of just Stein formats where it's just like Stein OTK decks are just the best deck. So that might be a little bit less interesting. Not as much to dive into there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Just be focusing on the like new decks that you can see how they would do.
Yeah, that's what I'll have to do in those formats. So yeah, which will be fun. I mean, I sort of like. I know that people are very down on a lot of the GX sets for good reason. They're pretty bad, but I like a lot of the jank that GX introduces. It's just there's some very interesting sort of things. So I'm excited to dive into that. Looks like Raga Drago is going to just lay down the swords right away. Means that they might be close or they might just have no defense. And that's the second.
No, I kind of do this all the time. For some reason, you always drop them very, very early. But
I mean, they've played a lot of LOB format games. So
yeah, I played a lot against him, and he has a very, 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 very insane Exodia draw rate.
So maybe there's something to just firing swords, But yeah. I'm
surprised that we haven't I guess not so, but I remember I think one of the first games I played against Raga Drago. I think Bob was talking about the fabled getting Exodia.
Man, that was legendary.
Yeah, that was so great.
Yeah, just turn one Exodia.
The sad thing was I lost the match.
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling ever. It's I got Exodia turn 1. I should win.
All this smoke screen fault.
Yeah, Raga just playing with the Rock Lee weights on. They're I gotta. You can have game 1. I'll give myself a bit of a handicap. But,
oh my god!
Is this a double reborn?
Yeah, oh, double!
Yeah.
Whoa. Blue Eyes looking pretty good, honestly. Not gonna lie, in these games. I was definitely very down on the deck because I wasn't really a big fan because. I mean, you got to get up to 7 cards, discard the Blue Eyes, but it's been doing good here.
And also hard draw it.
Yeah, you got to hard draw the Blue Eyes as well. But if you don't draw the hard Blue Eyes, you're basically playing a standard aggro deck, which isn't the worst. So yeah, I mean, we'll have to see whether it actually does well in games 2 and 3. I mean, Raga Drago, I mean, there are things that you can do against Blue Eyes. I'm not going to say exactly what because I know that History of YGO, I think they said last time that they do listen to the stream as they're playing. So I won't quite comment on that because I don't necessarily want them to play differently based on our comments. But yeah,
I think also I'm making a guess, but I sometimes hear a delay from Drago's end, and it could potentially be stream as well. But I don't want to. That's more speculative.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a delay with the stream. I think it's maybe
it's normal.
Yeah. You're gonna have that.
I mean, from hearing their mic in particular.
Oh, okay. So maybe they are just on a bit of a delay here. But yeah, there's the first Blue Eyes engrave. I don't think that History of YGO 1 has not opened Blue Eyes in the games that we've featured there. But yeah, there are some actual. There are also comments in the YouTube chat that I should get to as well. But yeah, DL with it says, I feel like we're setting a good pace on the formats, which is dang. Yeah, it's been fine tuning. It's been a bit of a process figuring out what the exact pace should be, but I think we've been doing a pretty decent job overall. And yeah, I hope that every format feels like it's gotten cared for. PJ says, I dislike that replays appear in the public Discord channel during the tournaments. Yeah, I think I agree. That can give some people like an advantage that they might not otherwise have. So we should probably make a rule that you don't do that until after the tournament wraps up. Yeah, so let's see. Deal with it says, if Yu-Gi-Oh! Rotated, GX would have been quite interesting despite having a much lower power level. I agree, and you see that a little bit in MBT's Progression Playoff series, which isn't quite the same thing as doing Constructed, but you get a bit of a sense of what that would be like, and it's kind of interesting. It's really cool to see. Even if you don't watch the whole thing, I recommend checking out the GX section, because it's neat. And Adrian Brunner says, this will be such an interesting top 8 breakdown. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do top 8 breakdowns of the locals, but yeah, we did have a very interesting and diverse like set of decks here, which was cool to see. People brought their like A game to these decks, and I think you really do see that. So it's awesome that we get to see it.
What deck was Danny playing?
Danny was playing a Flower Wolf fusion deck. I'm really sad I didn't get to show that off. I wanted to,
right.
but I saw that your game was going on, so I was like, I want to see if the Gaia Dragon deck can actually pull it off. And then by the time we got out of that, the Flower Wolf game was over, unfortunately. But really cool, like base choice of deck, Danny, if you're still listening. So yeah, that was awesome. And yeah, deal with this says, I feel like Blue Eyes is a weird deck choice when Gaia is already making people side Capture Jar. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of awkward into Capture Jar. It just depends on, if Raga is playing it. And but I mean, Gaia also does die to Capture Jar, so like, it's not the worst.
Without making spoilers, I had like 20 matches against Drago before this tournament. And the deck I was playing, and like I think he's very well prepared for Dragon strategies.
Yeah, potentially. we'll have to see here. But yeah, I also do know everyone's deck list, so I won't give any spoilers, but we may indeed see what you're talking about. It'll be interesting to see. Deal with it actually brings up an interesting idea. They say, wouldn't Dark Magician be more worth it despite 500 less attack? And I actually think that makes a lot of sense. If you're playing this sort of deck anyways, like the 3,000 versus 2,500 doesn't really matter too much, since you're just going for like an OTK basically after you've whittled down your opponent a little bit. And dodging Dragon Capture Jar might actually be more worth it than playing Blue Eyes. So that's something to consider.
It might still be a game 2 option.
Yeah. You definitely said it.
Side out the Blue Eyes, side in the Dark Magician, and here we go.
Yeah. We got a Fisher in main 2 there. I actually really don't like... I mean, in Yugi Kaiba as well, I don't really like this, but Fishering something main 2 I'm just not a fan of it. Because, like, then they can just commit another monster to board without fearing, like, playing into Raigeki, right? So, like, I don't generally... Like, see, the Fisher would have been great there. Or not great there. The Raigeki would have just been great there if Raigo still had the Manual Bug up. Or not the Giant Soldier up. Because it would have been a 2-for-1 instead of a 1-for-1. So, a minor thing. Like, it doesn't matter too much, but it can come up. And it's something that I see a lot in Yugi Kaiba as well, where people just, Fisher in the end phase. And it can be pretty bad. But, yeah, we got a Swords coming down here. And History of Waijo 1 is setting. I wonder what that could be. Oh, yeah, there's the Raigeki. Yep,
he knows.
Ninja.
See, like, this is very, very standard play.
Yeah.
Like, if you got a Swords and opponent sets, you always Raigeki this.
Yeah.
100%.
It's interesting because when I played this format a bit ago, something I would sometimes do is I just set a monster that isn't Armed Ninja the first turn. They'd like use Raigeki or Dark Hole. Then I set an Armed Ninja the next turn. Not as much of a tempo swing, but like you are still popping Swords a turn early and getting them to waste a Raigeki or Dark Hole. So it's kind of funny at least.
That's definitely something to consider if you have a monster to set.
Yeah.
With the Dark Magician stuff, like that would be really funny if it actually does somehow come up again because of like this deck.
Yeah, I think that honestly is the way to go. It's funny. I think that Blah actually mentioned Dark Magician when they were first talking about the trying out the Blue Eyes deck. They were saying, or you could do Dark Magician. But I don't think they brought up the application of it against Dragon Capture Jar. But are we going to see a Reborn here?
Well,
looks like they're probably going to go for Reborn. Yeah.
Okay.
So will this be the end of the game, or is it a Dragon Capture Jar?
No, he said then.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean there's no Dragon Capture Jar.
It could be. Could be a fake out here.
So that's what Blah is deciding between, but they are just going to bring out the blue. Hey, there it is.
What a waste.
You don't flip it. You don't flip it main
waste.
1 though. You flip it main 2 for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, okay. So you have the
flip it
read.
in battle phase,
If Blah had double Reborn, they would have just Reborn 2 non-dragons, right?
Exactly.
So it doesn't you can do this game or this turn, but yeah. And there's Pot of Greed. I mean, this is a.
And potentially, if Blah had removed Trap by activating Dragon Capture Jar in
that's
main
true as
phase
well.
1,
Oh yeah, maybe we'll see Remove Trap now make an appearance again. That may be the better solution.
No, I don't think Blah was prepared for that, so he doesn't have Remove Trap.
Yeah, and deal with it actually. Yeah, they bring up the Dark Magician thing did come up. If Blah was playing Dark Magician instead of the Blue Eyes there, it would have made a difference.
Not being fan of this because Blah probably has 2 Fisher in hand that can't use, and now we'll get to use.
Yeah, although
Let's see if he goes for it.
If Blah's using a Fisher on a head, it's not as bad as a Soldier Stone or something like that. So. Raigeki on the set there, hitting the Giant Soldier.
Kinda reckless in this moment.
Yeah, you can save the Raigeki for later, but I guess they're afraid of the Arm Ninja potential.
Let's see, true, yeah.
Yeah, there are 2 Arm Ninjas left in Blah's deck, so yeah,
but
it really is not over yet.
Note the graveyard of food that he's got. He used already 3 Raigekis and 2 Dark Holes. And 2 Fishers as well. He hasn't got any more resources now.
Yeah, you just got a hard draw into the Exodia here, honestly. Dark Hole comes down.
Monster Reborn.
You gotta trap hole that. You gotta trap hole that if you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Looks like they don't got it, but no Reborn from History of Wagio's side, so it really is not over yet. Will this be... Oh, Pot of Greed.
Oh my God.
This is intense. Down to the wire here with the Exodia deck. Fisher on the Arabi, but that might not be enough. Swords. That's killer there. That's killer. And if that's a set bug, you're playing around the Arm Ninjas potentially, but Stop Defense will deal with a bug. Oh, it's just a leg. Oh.
Right. Seems like they may have only 4 now, so.
Yeah. If you got Dark Hole, you got to fire it, but... Oh, yep, there's the Dark Hole. And that was indeed an Arm Ninja. So, Riot Dragon's going to set another pass back. This is probably the most intense game in LOB that we've seen. I mean, this is insane. Oh, yep, and that is it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And actually, as a note, if History of Wagio 1 had not gone for the greedy play of going for the Blue Eyes, then they would have actually won the game here. Because Riot Dragon is only at 600 life points. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Right, all important game 3.
Yep, all important game 3. That's why we're getting into it. Whew. Intense game. We got to see all 3 Dark Holes, all 3 Raigekis, all 3 swords on Riot Drago's part.
All 3 Fishers.
Yeah, absolutely insane gameplay.
Every single resource.
Yeah, but it paid off. They did indeed draw it. Israel Wagio once said that they went for the greedy play on purpose. So, that's good for them. But, yeah, it actually would have mattered. Unless it would have, caused potentially a change of play. But Adrian Brenner says, man, what a nail biter. 100% agree. That was insane. Very, very good game 3. Yeah. I mean, that was, I went into this stream expecting that we'd get a lot of very boring matches on camera. Not going to lie. I expected just like seeing people sit back and forth from each other, just trying to draw into their Exodias. But this game, oh boy, that was really good. But it does definitely show.
I was just gonna say, but like I feel like in the mirror, one of the best things you can do is actually try to attack the other Exodia player.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, the mirror does have some things you can do. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I actually think the mirror is bad.
That's
definitely when it's like Exodia against other decks, it's a little bit.
That's the most value you can ever get with a stop defense.
Yeah. No, that was very good. I will say, like, I do think the mirror is a lot better to play than to watch. Like, I enjoy the LOB format Exodia mirrors. Like, they're fun. But
another early swords.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like History YG01 will BRB. Maybe they're watching the replay for the previous game. No. Ryan asks, how's everyone's day? My day's going pretty good. How's it going with all you out there? I hope that you're all having a good one. And hopefully this is just sort of like the good capping end to the day. But deal with it says this format is inherently not boring because there's so much removal, even in Exodia mirrors. So we get a fair bit of action happening. Yeah, you definitely get cards like slamming on field, and it really is exciting. Like there are like very few other formats with this amount of removal, and just seeing so many Raigekis, so many dark holes in one game, it's just really cool to see. So there definitely is some action. Like don't get me wrong, and yeah, like I'm not saying this format's bad by any means. I'm just saying like from a spectator sport perspective. This is definitely one of the less interesting formats to spectate. It's sort of an interesting distinction. It's something that you don't often think about, like when you're playing the formats. But then when you like step into the role of a streamer, it is definitely like an interesting sort of consideration. So I like sort of having to view the formats that way and like interrogate them, being like, is this a good format to watch? But yeah.
Pretty fair, yeah.
Yeah, so that said, I mean, you gotta do the board removal on this. But honestly, if you do board removal and it's not Arm Ninja, are you really that upset?
Ooh.
Yep.
I thought it was a bait.
Yeah, it could have easily been a bait.
They actually said that. Yeah.
But
I would have baited there because like it's still early. See, like Rago Drago has just 3 cards, so it's still far away from having Exodia.
Yeah.
So you can afford waiting those swords.
But I think that's where like the skill expression comes with Arm Ninja, right? Like I'm pretty sure like these are some of History of YGO1's like first games in the format. So that's something that comes with time, right? But yeah. What this says, it's more spectator friendly than Exodia mirrors and Yugi Kaiba probably. Very true. Yeah, see, there's the Dark Magician. Yep, and that's what we were talking about there. It definitely is potentially better than Blue Eyes in these matchups after the first game. Honestly, maybe even in the first game if you are afraid of the Dragon Capture Jars. And I mean, that is how you make this deck, in my opinion, worth playing over the regular sort of Gaia, the Dragon Champion OTK.
Yeah. Although, I mean, Gaia is not a dragon. I mean, Gaia.
Yeah, but Gaia the Dragon Champion is. So
yeah.
So if you're relying on Gaia itself for that, then you might as well be using Dark Magicians instead, because Dark Magician's a little bit better. But yeah, more spectator friendly than tier mirrors. Yeah, that's what I've heard. I am excited to eventually get to the tier mirrors in 50 years. But
well, fortunately, it's gonna be in 50 years because like I don't want to see those.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting as like as we go forward, just to sort of see the balance of like GX and DM and then 5Ds and GX and DM and stuff like that, because people come to these videos for a variety of different things. So I don't want to focus like too much on any one sort of era, because I don't want to like alienate viewers who like seeing the DM stuff but don't really get to do that. It looks like Blah potentially has game here. Triple Reborn.
Witty?
Looks like Witty, yep. That will go through. I mean,
Ooh.
they had to have Triple Reborn here or else it wouldn't be...
Okay.
Yeah, it must be because
otherwise, you wouldn't
Oh
say
my
that
God.
you won the game without, before summoning the Witty, right?
Yay!
But
On the field, summons our
yep.
magician.
Dragon Capture Art,
Let's
and that's a
go!
Triple Reborn. Yep, Triple Reborn's very scary in this format. Yeah, but congratulations to Blah for winning the LOB locals. So definitely proving that the Blue Eyes or Dark Magician deck, however you want to call it, definitely does have some legs. So cool to see this deck defy expectations and be better than expected. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe call it Duelist Kingdom, because
yeah, because
you gotta...
you got DM and Blue Eyes. But yeah, no worries. Thank you for playing, Food. It was awesome seeing you, go through the tournament here. But yeah, that was a very exciting final, match there. Very cool to see. So let's get Blah in on the stream to discuss their
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It actually came up.
It did come up, yeah. So but I think with Triple Reborn, you were winning there either way. But
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still something to show the power of this potential strategy. So very cool to see, and it shows testing does matter in these sorts of formats. There are some things that you can tell with theory, but when it comes down to like whether one sort of OTK strategy that requires a bunch of pieces to work or another one is better, that sort of can fall to testing. But welcome to Colgate's here. Welcome. I thought you were actually Blah for a second because they won, but yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah, welcome. Congratulations on your victory there. Very excited
Blah
to see
won, but I
think
we all won actually.
Yeah. No, that was an awesome set of games that we got on stream there. So very cool to see. And very cool to see a deck that no one really expected to do well actually perform. So, Blah, what was your experiences like in this tournament run here? And what are your thoughts on the deck and the format?
May I finally talk about the OCG?
I'd prefer you keep it to the TCG.
It's actually very, very important.
But you see, it's important because in the OCG in 1998, they would play blue.
Yeah, no.
No. It's important because there was a riot.
There was a riot over Exodia itself because the way that yes, at the Tokyo Dome, but that doesn't really it's a very interesting piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history, but it doesn't really apply to this format itself. But
it kind of does because we wouldn't have the Exodia pieces if it weren't for that.
I love that we're trying to connect Blah winning with Blue Eyes. The reason I'm bringing it up is
because
all right.
Yeah,
Blyes.
I'm saying there's a reason I'm actually bringing it up is because in the OCG before Summon Skull, Curse of Dragon was around, but wasn't that good. The two tribute monsters were actually not bad at all.
Well, they also had different rules there.
Different rules
where you could summon them out without tributing. So
nope. Let's talk about Junior Journey.
Junior Journey
after May.
Oh.
Yeah, but
man.
That was the official rules.
Yes.
Volume 2 passed Volume 2, May 5th was the expert rules, and that was taken away. So you had to do it with 2 tributes.
Yeah.
And no hand size.
And that's part of why I wanted to restrict discussion on the OCG because a lot of
but some of the principles are still the same. A 3,000 attack monster is still a 3,000 attack monster.
Yes, 3,000 attack monster, true. But I think the principles between the junior rules, the original rules, and the rules with the TCGs actually do make the decks very different in practice. But getting a lot of damage out does matter.
Yes.
And I mean, we saw that in these games.
Yes. How do I put this?
Adrian Brunner, that is a Junior Journey reference.
Yeah, think of Blue Eyes. Think of Blue Eyes or Dark Magician as 2 Urabis.
Yes.
In 3 turns.
Yeah.
In 3 turns, you have 3 Urabis in hand, and over those 3 turns, you're summoning those Urabis. And you're either getting Raigeki, Fissure, Darkhold, or Swords. Blue Eyes.
You're right.
Yeah, Blue Eyes lets you cheat the system, summoning 2 Urabi for free with 1 Monster Reborn.
Yeah, but you've neglected a very important point there, which is the reason why Blue Eyes can potentially be a bit better than the 3 Urabis that you mentioned is because of Trap Hole, right? Blue Eyes did not die to Trap Hole, whereas like if none of the Urabis died to the Trap Hole, then you've gotten in more damage over those 3 turns than the Blue Eyes on the 1 turn.
Potentially. But you're more likely to get Raigeki or Darkhold. This is
but that
removal
doesn't matter
the format, as well as Exodia.
I think the important thing that we learned today was that Dark Magician is the best card in the format.
Yeah, no, I
yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like in Dark Magician, because Dragon Capture Jar is such a problem, even for Gaia. It's such a problem that you can, and this is the advantage Blue Eyes actually has over Gaia, as well as being able to just discard it with fewer resources.
Yeah.
You can side in Dark Magician instead and replace it. I played 3 Blue Eyes in the main deck and 3 Dark Magician in the side deck.
Yeah, and we were discussing that. We were discussing that, like, in the commentary, and we were saying that is really like one of the main reasons to play this deck over the Gaia Dragon Fusion deck. Because it can just dodge around Dragon Capture Jar while still putting forth an OTK.
Also, you don't need
or
to play
massive
Ollie.
damage.
Yeah,
which is the real big thing.
Well,
like Exodia, if you don't do this, it's no risk at all. A regular beatdown deck will you summon monster, they'll just keep stalling and stalling, and eventually get the cards.
Yeah. Well, we were discussing in the commentary briefly. We mentioned that there's sort of like a triangle that some people have theorized, where it's like regular Exodia beats typical like good stuff aggro, right? That's just playing all the normal summonable monsters and getting in and stuff. Mm-hmm. Big damage decks like the Gaia Dragon deck, like the sort of Dark Magician or Blue Eyes OTK decks can beat Exodia. And oftentimes the sort of regular good stuff like normal summon out monsters beatdown decks can beat the sort of OTK decks because they require more setup and more stuff to do. But the big sort of sticking
other thing
point
about
for a lot
the
of
Blue Eyes
people,
deck.
Yeah.
The other thing about the Blue Eyes decks, you've seen my side deck. It's not. I'm just not playing 3 Dark Magicians. One, that'd be illegal. You have to have no cards or 15. I also have a side to switch directly into beatdown in that situation.
Yes, but
taking out the Blue Eyes entirely.
Wait, what? It's illegal to have less than 15?
At this point in the game, yes, there was a rule about how you have to have either 0 or 15 for the side deck.
Until Master Rule 1, I think.
That is so funny.
This is Master Rule 1.
We are literally...
No, this is Master Rule 0 now.
We are literally in Season 0.
Yeah. In general, we don't
the new expert rules.
In general, we don't enforce the side deck thing because, like, we're very casual. So it's like, who cares if you got 14? You're just playing. You're just kind of playing suboptimally if you've got 14. I don't really care if you have 14 or 15.
To be fair, you say casual. This is the most competitive LOB that has ever happened in the past 20 years.
I mean, that is true. Yeah, we just did.
Potentially ever happened.
Yeah, we held the premier. We had the premier LOB format tournament.
Yeah.
So
LOB World Championship,
Yeah. So we made history here today, and I for one am happily surprised that Exodia did not actually take the top spot of this tournament. It would have been interesting to see with a bigger tournament and with more people, playing. Whether Exodia actually would have done better or worse, because I talked about the sort of deck breakdowns where there were like 4 people playing Exodia. 2 of them faced each other round 1. And then the remaining, so then there were basically 3 Exodia players effectively that could move on to the actual semifinals and finals.
I had to face an Exodia in round 1.
Yeah. So you knocked out one of them.
He won.
Yes. Yeah. You knocked
out. And I knocked him out.
Well, yes, yeah. We caught both of those games on camera, which were very exciting to see. And yeah, I mean, it was interesting because with the fusion deck into the sort of Blue Eyes deck, the Blue Eyes deck definitely played a lot more sort of down to the ground. Just being able to bring out a lot more normal summonable beaters. So it did win the matchup against like a sort of Gaia Dragon fusion deck. So that's another advantage of potentially playing the Dark Magician or Blue Eyes OTK deck as opposed to Guy the Dragon Champion. So
his deck was
practically
way more
interchangeable,
aggressive than
honestly.
mine.
yeah, and
Yes.
yeah,
And also he played Fisher, which I couldn't find space for
yeah, and
because
that's
I was expecting Exodia matchups, as I said previously.
yeah, that's one of the downsides of the fusion deck. I mean, I do think that the fusion deck can be a bit more explosive, but you gotta suffer for until you actually get to that explosive combo turn. But I do think that the Dark Magician and Blue Eyes decks do actually also have to spend a period of time suffering, but it's a different sort of suffering. Like, you can choose when to do it, right? You can choose when to sort of buff up your hand to over 6 and then discard your big tribute monsters. So an interesting.
You can choose when to suffer.
Yeah, basically. So and that can be powerful. Even if you do have to take a couple turns to actually get to that point. If you're facing down a Swords Revealing Light, what else are you really doing? And in addition, if you're if you're doing multiple pots of greeds, you can often wind up in situations where you have an oversaturated hand. So I think that these games did show this deck does definitely have legs, and I'm curious to see if you will keep experimenting with this format after this locals tournament, and if we'll see any more developments in the format. IRA said in the YouTube chat, that I'd be showing off probably like the Gaia Dragon champion deck in the future, but maybe instead of that, I'll be showing off this Dark Magician / Blue Eyes deck in the future. Adrian Bunner says, it's just beautiful to see a format where both ace monsters are actually quote-unquote viable. And yeah, that's one of the cool things about this format. We've got Exodia viable, and as we see here, Dark Magician and Blue Eyes also putting their best foot forward and being able to take a tournament. So very exciting to see. Very good performance. Congratulations again. And yeah, any last things that anyone wants to say here about this locals and this format in general?
I'm happy Exodia was defeated.
Yeah.
Also,
definitely.
Arm Ninja bait.
What do you mean by Arm Ninja bait?
Yes, I know you were talking about why I was setting Arm Ninja. I was deliberately baiting him to use Dark Holes and Raigekis. So in the event that, what's the word I'm looking for? In the event I could establish a Blue Eyes and an extra monster on board that insulates from fissure, and I have a chance to win next turn. It's a risk, but this is basically a no-risk format anyway. So
yeah, I mean, it's something you can definitely do. I have personally been in favor of trying to use the Arm Ninjas and getting value out of them. But I mean, it is what it is, and I guess either way that you do it, you either pop the swords on the next turn or you use up one of the removal cards. So it works out either way, I guess. But we didn't actually get to see the sort of benefits of that ever really come up in these games, because Raga Draga had the removal for the boards, which is one of the things in these formats where something you don't necessarily quite expect. Just the amount of removal and just having to chew through that much removal can be tough. But it was cool to see, and I'm really glad with the games that we caught on camera. I think they're really fun, and I hope that everyone watching the stream also enjoyed. But
this format looks a whole lot cooler than I ever thought it would, just from the description.
Yeah, no, same. I mean, honestly, when I first tested it, I thought that Exodia was tier 0, and when everyone in the Discord was testing it, we also got people saying Exodia tier 0. But maybe this tournament argues otherwise. At the very least, I think it's proven that Exodia is not tier 0, but tier 1 at best.
Not unbeatable.
That I played so many games against Rago Drago where he was just drawing Exodia in the first 10 cards, and I said it's impossible to lose with that deck, because if you always draw Exodia like that, then we come up in the tournament and he freaking draws the entire deck and couldn't draw the full Exodia.
Sometimes your opponent's just better than you is the thing. So
and we saw that multiple times where I feel like we jumped into a couple of games where it was just the Exodia player had drawn 20 cards and still not gotten it. And I think you're expected to draw Exodia in the first 20 cards, but anything is possible. You could potentially have all 3 of one piece at the very bottom of the deck, and then you just sort of auto lose. So You never know with
that's
these.
why, like, I was just gonna say that's why I'm considering like trying out like a more aggressive version of Exodia, so that way I don't have to just rely on just hoping to draw into it because of stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
Hey, hear me out. Exodia Dark Magician.
Oh, playing all the
Yes!
spellcasters in one build.
The Yugi special.
Yeah,
Let's
that'd be
go.
pretty cool.
You already have a huge hand anyways, because it's all Exodia pieces. That do nothing.
Exactly. That's actually a really neat idea. I hope that people do try
And Aquamadur as well, because it's
Yeah.
a spellcaster
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I hope that
Oh,
people
yeah.
do
Big
like test out that sort of thing. I think this tournament has shown that like this format is a lot more interesting than a lot of people expected. I still wouldn't say it's like necessarily as good as something like Yugi Kaiba or Critter or something, and I don't think that anyone's saying that. But
Well, I'm saying that it's better than Android.
well, that's your response to every
Yeah.
format. So
Okay, but is he wrong though?
that's the question. I mean, I like Android format, but it's definitely not for everyone. But yeah, I hope that people keep experimenting with it, and I feel like there definitely is a lot more room to explore. You know, there's a lot more room to explore, and I hope that people do explore it and sort of dive into it more and keep playing, despite the fact that we likely won't have another locals in it for quite some time. But thank you all for coming on to the commentary and playing. It was great having you and great watching your games. And yeah, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. For all of you out there, if you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe to the channel. We do these weekly. And also hop on over to the Discord server, linked in the description. You can sign up for the next one. It's always a blast to, play. And so I hope to see you there. But that'll probably be it for me. So until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero. I'm signing off. So see y'all next time.
On the couch.
Oh yeah, what's the next locals?
Oh, I should mention this. Next locals is Yada format locals happening this Friday.
Yeah.
So
That's so hype.
definitely sign up for that if you're interested. Should be a lot of fun.
More action.
Please
than
don't be
this
boring. Please don't be boring.
I
Please
assume
don't be
that
boring.
some people, will take the standard decks, but yeah, should be fun. So see you all then.
Yeah, I may share a deck for that tournament.
You on the couch.